Jerry here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Mars hour, Saturn night. And the midheaven is conjoining Pluto in Aquarius. So Mars is applying to square Pluto. And a little bit about the energies. There have been, it's not news that around eclipses there are a lot of rituals. And there have been, in kind of like the overall energies, there have been a lot of attempts to even conjoin people together and to do certain or inflict certain energies that, how should I say, for the collective that I'm reading for, they're not really, well, I'm going to put it that way. Several practitioners even may have been put in certain trajectories when they understood that if they comply, they lose their business. And if they make it obvious that they don't comply, they might have further challenges. So what happened along the trajectory goes like this. Many people are well aware, it's not becoming well aware, are well aware that whichever method, whichever even belief system people work with as practitioners, the side that was able to pay them money is not always on the right. And yet when it comes to transmission of energy, they have to be doing things that will not you see, throat chakra clearing up. They have to be doing things that will not put them on the trajectory of the side that perhaps even money laundered by paying practitioners or people to do certain things. So I talked about it in the previous recording, and what I sense is that those who believe that they can just do away with bribery or threatening, anybody that deals with energy is becoming very aware, first of all, that this is not the timeline that they want to serve. And the money just gets lost to, if unless it is invested benefically. Trying to take away more resources from people is beginning to backfire in ways that no matter how much they try to hide that, it's visible. And so I'm getting a trajectory where some people even lose their, how should I say that? Well, Mercury and Sun are applying to oppose Saturn, so there can be a little bit of a restraint or a certain limitation. And for those that don't know the astrology or don't read the energy well, they might try to break through that limitation by doing even more of the same type of malefic magic. And malefic, I mean not protective, okay? So, and this is important. Um, there are certain people that need to break free from oppression, and that's one thing. But I'm talking about something that is hurting people that are not, um, yes, that are not partaking in that oppression and are just existing, and so on. And so, those that are not reading the energy well might try the same old trajectories to try to break through those limitations. But first of all, it's kind of like, hey, Saturn is opposing Sun and Mercury. Okay, it has a little bit of a limiting effect, perhaps even a heaviness, or, there's a trine to Jupiter and Moon, and a sextile to Pluto. But particularly for night charts, it is still heavy. Um, those that have placements at the end of Pisces might feel it more tremendously, and um, and also give place to the fact that, hey, that Saturn is a bit of a downer, a bit depressive, can feel like there's no meaning to something, a delay that we just have to stick through um, and wait for the transit to pass, and that is a part of the energy. So for everybody, I would recommend just being aware of the fact that in the coming days we have an eclipse that's opposing Saturn. It's annoying. It's feeling a bit lifeless. Um, it's feeling restrictive. It's depressive. It's a downer. Okay, and people might feel that around the heart. Okay, because of the sun, around the heart, around the nervous system, even restraints on speech. But let that Saturn not be witchcraft, okay? Because if we understand that Saturn is Saturning, then first of all, we understand that um, uh, there is a certain limitation in the sky right now that might be coming. It may look like the Pisces person is limiting or limited, okay? And in many ways that is true. Saturn is structure, but let that Saturn not be witchcraft. Um, it's kind of like, hey, defend the boundaries, but don't perpetuate evil. Because those that don't read the energy right, first of all, they may have done a lot of things that even went unnoticed, and now people are like paying attention. So because Saturn is such a trajectory, it can be up to 28 years ago. Now, at that time, also stuff that people did or said that is no longer relevant might come to the surface, um, hopefully to be healed and purged. But this can be a word, okay, Mercury, the other pole, that somebody said almost 30 years ago. Um, and and that stuck with people. And again, in each and every one of us, is probably both on the recipient of this and on the one that has said certain things and so on. Um, Perhaps even not intending to, um, or for some people it's the spark of the moment, or it can even go to the hurt people with this, aspect to Sedna, the sextile to Sedna. However, um, as long as we understand that this is Saturn and we don't perpetuate anything here, okay, then that would be the best course of action. Um, Defend the boundary, but don't perpetuate evil. That would be the go-to. Now, for those that went with trying to perpetuate evil or even pay somebody to perpetuate evil, this is having kind of immediate ramifications. And I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as kind of like, hey, we're closing a cycle. That's not the time to, to create any further malefic karma. So I actually look at Saturn as benefic in this way, where if somebody's making a malefic ritual, just like an immediate ramification. It's very much bringing an ending to a cycle, um, and depending on what the issue was, that ending can be, um, you know, it is an ending to a cycle. So it depends what people did on that cycle, right? But it carries the note of ramification. There can still be grace. They can, especially with Saturn, with Jupiter, Moon slowly applying to Procyon. There can still be grace. There can still be remediation. There can still be kind of sweetening of the verdict. Um, that being said, all all if and only if all those things are bringing to the closing of that cycle, to the ending of um, this, okay, this chapter. Now, with the sun, anything that brought into compromising heart health, including insight into the ability to feel and so on, might come to the surface. Again, it's a partial solar eclipse, but the sun and the moon will oppose Saturn and Neptune, which carries a heavy undertone. Okay, just the emotions are going to be heavy, the heart is going to be heavy. Again, let that not be witchcraft, okay? Because those things, particularly on a nervous system level, gut health level, and oh, definitely Neptune can denote sacrifice. All the BCIs, because nervous system and sun and moon is eyes, are going to have karmic trajectory. I don't know what was done. BCI is spine through eyeballs. Again, anybody that did something underneath gloved hand get caught red-handed. So Saturn can also bring a delay in the attempt to sacrifice someone, the ending of a sacrificial cycle. Those that try to, again, swap karmas or swap destinies. And here's the thing. Certain people might simply be empathetic. Okay, so They might even feel together with a person, and that can actually alleviate a lot of the things that have been going on. Um, and there's a difference between feeling instead of and feeling together. So I'm talking about the healthy manifestation is feeling together, having eurekas and insight, which is going to happen, okay, with Uranus. Um, the darker manifestations is that people try to, perhaps in their fear, and Saturn can bring fear of death, they try to, swap destinies or swap karmas and so on. This one will carry immediate ramifications. Like, um, okay, look at Mercury turning 27 as I speak. Because Saturn has to do with accumulation of action. And actually, even a little bit of tending to goes a long way. But I understand that there are a lot of fears with Saturn, particularly for night charts, and particularly for people who may feel shame or who may, and even feel shame for, kind of like they did horrible things, so they feel, fear and so on. But the moon and Jupiter offer the gift of grace right now, where there is a little bit of transmutation here that takes place. Um, and what can be is that certain people might be crossing over. And I gave a little bit of an energy reading about that. I don't even know if I published that. But this is where the passing, for those who are losing loved ones, the passing, at least from my vantage point, is looking into a place that is peaceful. And even with the Procyon undertone, there can even be the quest for peace can bring a passing that is actually bringing peace. Um, and again, I'm humbly giving my own trajectory and my own interpretation, and I'm just another person offering a reading. Okay, so but what I feel like is that there's not necessarily a need to fear death, and it's actually the embrace of peace that calls people to no longer be the hurt people that hurt people. Again, of course, those that can feel the pain, um, and even the desire, from that pain that somebody will carry the consequences and so on. I feel that there is also a lot of potential for peace, um, and understanding that with that peace there is alleviation of the very pain that one feels, um, and also the gift of grace for what, the many things that the psyche is going through when people are basically in pain. Heart health issue. People may fear heart health issue, in which case they might feel karma to do with the military operation. Okay, they might fear karma on their heart regarding that. With Saturn in Pisces along those 3 years, This is the strong tending to alleviating things, tending to um, correcting the wrongs, tending to that would bring in the steps that can alleviate that. Um, I don't necessarily think somebody will pass from like a heart issue that they're so afraid of. If they have premonitions that have been one-to-one accurate in all of their life, then maybe, being stoic and accepting is the course of action. But some people have premonitions that are being exposed to all kinds of both organic and artificial timelines. And I bring back the good old Gigi Young discussion about timelines from years ago, where she talked about reading the future and the notion that there are various timelines and people can attune to those various timelines. Now, again, from the vantage point of an astrologer, people are eclipse children who have very strong premonitions. Um, they might innovate in their own way, but when it comes to um, some people were like MK Ultra gateway projects that were the job of creating timelines that are inorganic. So those people may have premonition or sense that they are getting karma for that. And I'm like, okay, let's chill. Nobody's to blame that they've been ritually abused. I know that perpetuated a lot of harm, and people that don't even know what it is or that are busy defending themselves from harm um, have their own, temporary biases. Okay, just like when people talk about the suicidal tunnel, um, it's it's a tunnel for a reason, and in that same case, people might be having tunnel vision. And actually, tunnel vision is the exact accurate term for this, as to the timelines and trajectories that they fear that are the implications of what they did and brought upon. No, not necessarily. Um, Not at all, even necessarily. Those are trajectories where, like, definitely we are purging outdated practices, um, but I would be cautious of thinking, oh, it's this and this person will get karma for that and that, or this and this person will experience like a heart issue and so on. We run the risk of, because it's Ketu with Sun and opposing Saturn, but other than, and of course it's like fated events, but it doesn't necessarily at all mean that it will manifest in that way. And I would try to keep aware of the fact that people might have a tunnel vision at this time. Um, and so, um, and other people might even receiving good information about, let's say, heart risk that they have. Okay, for example, I have a Sun opposing Saturn, and Sun is ruling my sixth house. So I naturally have a kind of more sensitivity around the heart, and Saturn would be ruling my 12th. So it's both kind of like a spirit and matter um, issue, and I need to go about, um, kind of make sure that my cardiovascular is being activated, or it's kind of like, hey, there could be a heart issue. Okay, and the Sun in Taurus, like, she's so peaceful about that. Yeah. There could be a heart issue. Um, again, it's something that's not impossible, um, but it's also like I wouldn't go on worrying about that. Um, So particularly for me, with Saturn rules the 12th house, and actually having a sense of peace is protective because Saturn is stress. So, but for other people, it can even be that people around me that are stressed about it more than I am. And they might even be right. Okay. Um, I can say I definitely had heart like sun sensitivity and so on. Um, and with all the ritual abuse that I've undergone, it's kind of like exercising was difficult. And the fact that I tended to, that those things were perpetuated by treason and cult does not make it easier for the heart. And so, um, and sometimes it's difficult, okay, if it's like people could actually be caring about me and I wouldn't be able to see that because of all these things that I'm tending to. So I'm grateful for the people that do care about me. Um, yeah, those things are beyond complicated. And that can be, if you find yourself in these words or in what I said, then that may resonate. Yes, any solar eclipse when the sun is with Ketu can bring, it can also bring purging of heart issues. It can also bring some heart issues. Doesn't mean anybody's gonna die, okay? And and I hope that the death is indeed Saturn Neptune can bring dissolving into a place that is hopefully kind of like better. Um, yeah, more things that are present in the energies right now. Well, speaking about this, okay, Pluto is retrograde to 1 degree, so I know that I've personally had life-threatening transits that entail certain events in the past decade or so. Again, it's not for nothing that the people that I tended to have been dealing with death threats literally all their lives, and that's intergenerational. um, and even a part of the things that came to me around this eclipse is being aware of how threatened, you know. um, and that in itself can be, a burden on the psyche and a burden on the health. Um, an overwhelming sense of overwhelm. So many of you may resonate with that. Um, and again, it doesn't mean that people are going to die or pass away or so on. It's just that it's just one of those eclipses that touches on the topic of the fear of death, passing away, um, the missing, the void, people that have passed away, um, oh, certain charts of people that have passed away, particularly around the people of the world or the media. Okay, that even if it's like long gone, there can be certain things that um, That will either will because with Ketu we're letting go of. It can even be letting go of certain grief or um, kind of letting go of what was, or even remembering or commemorating um, letting go of the beliefs that person carried, or like I don't know, there can be all kinds of even mediumship experiences around such eclipses. Um, we saw a content creator that was assassinated, um, was Charlie Kirk, and yeah, jurisdiction, journalism. There may be some famous figures, as always with Ketu solar eclipses. There may be some famous figures that will be saying goodbye to. Um, and that they may pass away. I don't necessarily see assassination here at all. Okay, so I don't see any of the malefic degrees here. Um, Not at all, even, as I'm not worried about like those trajectories. It can be, dying of old age or dying of the unfortunately military operation. um, yes, so that can happen. Business people as well. Trifon has this thing where he goes over who are we saying goodbye to with the eclipses in Ketu. So those are very likely the people that we might be, and certain leaders in the jurisdiction, attorneys, beauty industry, can be even models that are also doing journalism in a way, like something like that. Um, then those cases might be. But again, I don't necessarily see assassination. It can happen. We don't really see assassination here active so much. Um, nor suicide. Okay, so it can simply be like, hey, that person passed away. Um, mm, Authors, famous authors, um, actors that are very meticulous, of a Virgoian quality to them. Um, so one would have to have like either ascendant, sun, or moon in the last decan of Virgo, or the first decan of Libra, or the ruler of. Okay, and again, it can be a health issue here. It's not something that that would that I would do a water expanse upon cooling about. Um, mm, mm, mm. What can alleviate right now? Expression of the voice can really alleviate things, and even around the eclipse, voicing one's voice can alleviate health problems. And it is not necessarily a Me Too level because Venus will be in Virgo. It's kind of like voicing one's voice can really alleviate um, the things that kind of unnerve, because Mercury will be co-present with Mars. Um, Again, open-hearted expression is key to many things. Will there be an end to a cycle of perpetual death threats? It can be in some cases, okay? I wouldn't go full blown utopia on that, but it's not. It's just an ending to a cycle. So if that cycle was filled with fear of death, granted it is not like dying or something like that, then there can be an ending to a cycle, particularly one that began 28 years ago. So we're in 2025. 28 years would be 20 would be 2005. 28 years would be 1997. That's the 1996, 7. Uh, mm, so, mm. Ooh. Yeah. 1996, 7. Um, oh wow. The good news is that at least that's yes, it's gonna be Saturn return for that's that 1996. So, um, wow. That's the good news. And upon Saturn return, usually is the accumulation of the implications. Night charts are going to experience the effect of Saturn in a more, that they're just having a more difficult time with that Saturn. Okay. Um, Day charts are basically going to feel the Mars square Pluto more. So I'm even getting the fact that there are certain people who are wondering, like, is anybody of us is going to like has crossover, and you know certain things can happen, and it can be both. Okay, it can be neither, it can be both. So yeah, which is why I say let that Saturn not be witchcraft. It's kind of like, hey, defend one's boundaries from witchcraft, um, but don't try to oppress another person's self-determination. Okay, that is kind of like my go-to tip around that. Um, is it emancipatory? I don't know. It's a solar eclipse with Ketu. It's less emancipation and more purgatory. Um, in which case, again, let that Saturn not be kind of like about witchcraft. It's very likely an ending of a cycle. I'm not too worried that people will be assassinated or be unalived or all those trajectories. It can actually even denote of something that's a bit more peaceful, particularly for those that really were seeking peace and rest. Um, for the HR, they will feel the Mars more. Um, Night charts, yeah. Again, I'm not overly worried about that. Um, yes, if it's not like the ruler of your ascendant or your ascendant being pointed, I wouldn't be so worried. Um, but definitely, I would not like. There's something that I say a lot, which is, if it's not in the books, don't put it there. Which means, and this is why I say let it not be witchcraft, because trying to perpetuate evil might put something in the books that is absolutely not there. Okay, so that's my elegant way of putting in that. Particularly if you know, I would, how should I say that? Remember the time when I said, a moment of silence for those who did a destiny swap with a targeted individual. So this is a reminder. Okay, you might think it's like, oh, there's something good coming up for that person, and there's some trajectory or lot activation or something you haven't seen coming. Then either you don't get the destiny swap or you get a little bit, and then it's kind of like, oh, that's what they're going through. um, because some people can seem radiant and glowing, and you don't know what they're dealing with. You hear, I can say that in times that were even very, very challenging for me, there were times that were beyond horrid, and then there would be like fits of laughter from trauma, and people could hear those fits of laughter from trauma and think, oh, I want that destiny. I'm like, no, you don't. And particularly those that try to work underneath gloved hands as a third party, they might get caught red-handed, because there's nothing like a Mercury with Ketu on an eclipse more than being caught red-handed. Um, when Mars is squaring Pluto. But that, I think, is more the trouble of the day charts. For the night charts, it seems to be more the emotional experience of that they are purging. And this can even bring a little bit of a heart issue. Then, on a holistic level, is an emotional purge that actually ends quite a big chapter and begins healing.